you. All right.
Right.
We're here again.
Started up.
Yeah.
So it's on zero mode. Huh?
Episode 11, season 1, whatever that means. Yeah, so I'll go back to, we're just chatting offline, and I thought we should press record. And I was talking about the Hyrox event the other week, and my heart rate, I was maxed out at 205. In all honesty, I don't know how accurate the watch is. I reckon the watch may stutter when you're having such high peaks. I mean, it's measuring off your wrist. I didn't wear a heart rate strap. They say the heart rate straps are so much more accurate. I do believe the average is probably quite accurate because it's taking that the whole time. So it's got a better chance of being more accurate over that, 1 hour 35. But that peaked at 204. Who would know? I might stick a heart rate monitor on and see what happens next time. Very high.
It seems high, 204. Yeah.
Particularly for someone at my age, you wouldn't think he could get that high. But, yeah, interesting that you're saying about if your heart has an issue. When I was running, and I'll go back and tell you a bit about what happened during the event, but I couldn't get my heart rate down under 185. And my brain literally said to me, you do realise that 2 things are going to happen. At 185, I'm not going to complete the event. I'm actually going to have to stop. And if something happens at 185, my body's going to shut down completely. So I looked at my watch on multiple occasions and thought, okay, I need to slow. I need to just walk. And if it's a 200-metre walk, don't beat yourself up about it. Just walk to 200 metres, get your heart rate down, then go again. So that's kind of what happened. But my first, as I've explained before, it's 8 stations and 8 1K runs. Perfect timing. I was running 520K pace. All my stations were perfect. My ski erg, my sled push, my sled pull was really fast. I think I was just over 2 minutes. A lot of people doing around 6. I hit the burpees. My heart rate went through the roof. Game over. Couldn't get it back down. 80 metres of burpees. Smoked. So it was a big lesson I need to get. Because interesting enough, a guy turned up and I met him outside and they interviewed him the day before. He was 64. He flew up from Melbourne the night before. He was doing the Hyrox event on the Saturday and running the City to Surf on Sunday.
People 64. Do crazy things.
And super skinny guy, but super fit. He's got a 10K time of 45 minutes at 64.
That's good.
Yeah,
very good.
So, and he got ran in 130. I went 135. And what it said to me is that his cardio base, you have to have a cardio base for this event because it's 8Ks of running.
Yeah, of course. But I will, just before we get off the topic of heart, I'll tell you, because I know this was accurate, when they had me on a bed and loading me into the elevator at Prince of Wales Hospital with the heart monitor on my chest and me all hooked up to it, so I knew this was accurate. When I was at 201, you are very, very uncomfortable, and you know it. At 201, you feel very, very uncomfortable just in your whole body at 201. So if that 204 that you registered, which I don't think I think that may be inaccurate because I just know, because I know what it feels like. At 204, you would have actually felt so uncomfortable you would have just stopped.
I did. Yeah. I did stop. And
stopped. And you would have had it would have been scary. 204 is scary.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting. As I said, who knows if your watch has the ability to read that. I need to do a bit of research. I've gone 210 with a heart rate monitor once before running Sandhills at Palm Beach. I was much younger.
Yeah, you would get, especially today.
Yeah, and I've done 201 this year in the gym as well. But look, if I did hit 204, but even at 185 or the high 180s I was hitting in Hyrox, I knew it, Chris. My body I was delirious. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't count laps. I was all over the place.
Yep.
I was in a really...
Oh, yeah.
And I won't say that I was in... It was interesting because I wasn't in pain, 400-metre running pain or running Balmoral Burn pain. but my
No,
body was just
stress.
so just stressed. Yeah. And it was very hot in there. So I was soaking wet.
Yeah.
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 So it
It's
was,
not pain because it's just that you just feel this level of distress. And I did it once when I was running the Queenscliff stairs on a 35-degree day. You know the Queenscliff stairs?
mhm.
All the way from Queenscliff Club to the top. And my heart rate peaked out at about 185. And then because I had the monitor across my chest, and I was very, very uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
and I'm talking distressed, uncomfortable. So it's just
This,
something
I
that I
would,
say. Sorry, go on.
no, you go.
I was just going to say, unlike a calf muscle or a quad or any other muscle, if it fails, there's no consequences. If your heart fails, yeah, well, you die. So it's a pretty big consequence. So it's
Yeah,
just
for sure.
unlike any muscle that, even though it's a muscle and it operates very similarly to every muscle in your body, if you get it wrong, and something it starts to quiver or do something irregular, which mine did, then you enter this zone of danger that things start happening around you very, very fast. And as we well know, I mean, in the Gold Coast Marathon that just went by, I think it was only 24-year-old, cardiac arrest, he died.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's definitely
So you got
interesting.
to, you just
As I was saying that the day we ran on the track in that heat, and it was very, very uncomfortable. But again, not painful,
yeah,
like painful being when you run 400s. That's kind of what it was like. It was just extremely uncomfortable. But again, for particularly us coming from our more track backgrounds, to do something for an hour and a half, 90 minutes, that uncomfortable, let me tell you, it took me into my depths.
I
I
can
had to dig
imagine. I
deep.
mean, yeah, and your physiology. I mean, you've got quite a good, level of endurance that you can hang your hat on, and you can pull on that for quite some time. Whereas if I tried to do what you just did, it would be just a disaster. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't complete it. Period. Because my physiology, you see me at training. When we have to do the hard stuff off season. When I was doing it with Mike and everyone else, I was always last.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And I
Yeah.
must admit, I was disappointed I wanted to go a better time. And there's massive improvement in that time easily just by having a better cardio base. But when I did that mountain bike
Yeah.
ride 2 years ago in Colorado, and the entire race is above 13,000 feet, and I think equates to about nearly 3,000 meters, the entire race,
That's
and
horrible.
it's 50 miles, it's 80 Ks, and some of the
Ugh.
climbs go up to 18% steepness, and you have to walk. I've got
Mm.
photos and video that's online. There's about 100 people all in a row in a creek bed that's so steep, everyone's pushing their bike. You can't even ride
Yeah,
up
of course.
it. And I
Yeah.
walked in that event an hour and a half. I don't know what my heart rate was in that event. I don't think I did wear a monitor, but I wouldn't, if you had told me before that race that I could actually do something for 7 hours under that stress, I wouldn't have believed you, because the same thing happened during that event. My body, it didn't shut down, but the level of stress for such a long period of time, again, not having the work under my belt was pretty severe. But yeah, anyway, I got through. I survived. But yeah, it's interesting. The whole heart thing, was on my mind a few times when you see your watch running at this 185, for an extended period of time. And I'm like, man, I'm
Oh my
okay with
God.
185, then coming back down and having a rest. But when you don't get that rest, and I think the big thing that happened in there, mate, was the heat. There was
Yeah.
5,000 people inside a shed. It was so
Yep.
hot in there. So
Yep.
yeah.
Well,
What else you got?
when I was just going to say, when I talked to the cardiologist about, I said, what are the main athletes you see for the procedure that I had done in terms of a heart that would not stay in rhythm? And you know what the most common athlete that he sees is?
I would have thought marathon runners.
No, they're quite stable. It's triathletes.
Yeah.
Triathletes, because they're exercising for, well, you look at the Hawaiian Ironman, up to the winner does it in about 8 hours.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon his heart rate is for 8 hours?
Yeah, and be up there for sure.
He's asking his heart to do a task that is so extreme that eventually it just malfunctions, and they have to have that surgery. So it's yeah. But anyway,
I think for a lot of the complications, and particularly in the Ironman, comes from the heat as well. I've heard some horror stories,
yes, correct.
because they have those hot winds apparently there.
Well, it's the lava plains when they run through those lava plains and it's always windy one way, so you've got to run with it and then into it, because you do a loop. The bike, which is 180 k's, half of it's into the wind, half of it is with it.
Yeah,
but in the marathon, it's the heat. You're right; it just kills you. And there's two things that kind of drive your heart rate up. One is heat, and the other is altitude.
yeah.
Every time you go up in altitude, your resting heart rate rises. So it's that you only get a normal resting heart rate at sea level.
Yeah, it was interesting when I lived up in the mountains, just how elevated my heart rate was overnight and how low it's come down to now that I'm back and, readjusted to living at sea level again.
Oh, 100%. Like mine was about 65 when I was even living in Arizona, and I was only at 1,600 feet.
Mm.
And when I came back to Australia to sea level, it went back to 42.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
So, but that's what altitude does.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. That's why I don't like altitude, and I don't like living in mountains. I don't, because your body's really actually not, I know people rave about it, but it's actually, we're not designed to live like the Nepalese.
Yeah, I mean, obviously your body has some sort of adaptation to it, and I'm pretty sure there's probably a limit once you go over a certain height that your body starts to, longer term struggle. And I know in Colorado there is I remember being in a bus one day with a guy, and he was going to see his doctor down in Denver. Denver's 1,600, it's a mile high city, and then up in the mountains is up to 3,000. And he'd been told by his doctor that he had to move back down. It was too high where he was living, and he was probably in his late 70s, and he was about to sell his house and move back down to sea level. And I think he was actually going back to New York, even out of Denver.
Yep, everything works well at sea level. Everything starts doing crazy things at altitude. It just is. And if you want to know the extreme, you only got to look at the people that climb Mount Everest. And they talk about the dead zone.
Yeah.
There's a point when you start getting towards a summit where your body is physically dying.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they can't stay up there very long. And that's why anyone that does that climb without oxygen, not only are they taking their life into their own hands, but that is something quite superhuman, because their body is physically dying. They're getting such little oxygen to their brain, to their heart, to their muscle. It's like being in an anaerobic state constantly and getting no oxygen to any parts of your body that are important.
You wonder about the long-term damage that, even if you can make it up there and back without oxygen, that it's actually done to your body. When I spent some time in Bolivia at 3,500 and 4,000 meters, the villages are at 4,000 meters. We went up to 5,000 meters. We walked over the peak of the mountain. We were hiking was 5,000, but the villages on the way up are at 4,000. All the kids, even tiny little kids, their feet are all really swollen, and all their face have a capillarized. Their face, their cheeks are really quite puffy and little capillaries everywhere, where apparently it's the body just trying to get more oxygen everywhere, and they get these superficial veins. But these are kids. These are like, 3 and 4 year olds. They've already got this, nearly like rosacea in their cheeks. And their feet go really weird.
And it dries your skin out and flakes all your skin off. I mean, even in Arizona, I was just every time I was just covering myself in bloody moisturizer just to try and keep your skin from, and my feet. That was one point I was taking big chunks of like off my feet from where the skin would just dry out, and it was just uncomfortable. I didn't like it. So all the proponents of saying living at high altitude, all these the good bits versus the bad bits. My view, I just wouldn't do it. I just don't think it's worth it. You get down to this level, up here on the Gold Coast and going to the beach and jumping in the ocean and being just at sea level, our body seems to operate at a very optimum level.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's enough evidence and science around training at those higher altitudes actually has an advantage.
Sure.
And you can see you don't train at the altitude and you try and go to altitude and then do something how hard it is. But anyways, what else you got? Track, athletics, Budapest, what's going on there?
Well, the World Championships are on. This is going to make you laugh because I said to everyone, I get so sick of being right about everything all the time. And I was just having a conversation because I had one of my athletes was doing a 1K time trial and he fell and banged his knee up pretty bad. So I got everyone around and I said, listen, what you guys got to understand when you're competing or when you're going for a time trial, and he had a really good female runner next to him, which she was a better runner, but he was going to try and beat her. And she pushed up on him. And as soon as she did that, he fell. And I said, you need to understand, and this is what racing's about, is that when someone pushes, I said to everyone, watch the World Championships and watch people who are in a commanding position, but someone pushes up on them and watch their physiology change. And then 2 times it happened. Femke Bol.
I saw the 4x4.
See, she fell, and Sifan Hassan. Did you see her fall?
No.
Gold medal position, 10K for women. And a couple of runners pushed up to her. She's fell. She went from gold to 11th. And she was meters from the finish.
Femke Bol didn't finish.
Femke Bol, nothing. Yeah.
Dropped the baton.
So, but she was 10 meters from the line. 10 meters. But someone pushed to her. And by the way, Femke Bol is an extraordinarily talented and professional runner. She's run heaps of events. She's Sydney McLaughlin's out of the 4 hurdles. She will win the gold medal unless something else happens to her. But it's just interesting that, and people don't talk about this. They talk about the physicality of athletics or running or whatever. But a lot of people don't talk much, I do, about the effect the brain has on your ability to execute a run when you're under pressure and how you react to that. And I've been practicing a lot with my athletes at a lot slower pace, getting them to relax. And then I'll get in the run and I'll push up on them. And I'll say, now come with me, but stay relaxed. Do not feel that temptation to put in an extra effort that will tighten your body. And I'm getting them to practice and practice and practice, running slower, relaxing, but being able to lift and hold that nice relaxed state. And it's really, really hard to do and at training, they're getting better at it. But I just know if it was a race, a time trial, or in an actual race, that their ability to control their thought process and tell their body to do something, even though it's counterintuitive to what's happening around them, is an almost impossible task for them. And we watched it happen twice at the World Championship with 2 of the best runners in the world, by the way. Sifan Hassan has won multiple gold medals. She is her times and the things that she's done are just off the Richter scale. Probably go down one of the greatest athletes, in the last 2 decades. And yet she got it wrong. So it's you've got to spend time working on your mental game, because your mental game will desert you if you don't work on it and you don't understand what's going to happen to you when things start going wrong around you. Then if you haven't worked on your mental game, you'll go to the cupboard and it'll be bare. You won't have a tool to use. You'll just go, shit, I don't know what to do. I just need to push, and everything will come apart. So you need to. Yep.
Femke Bol was interesting because she tightened so much that she started to reach with her upper body, and her legs just went straight out the back. She had no knee lift whatsoever left, and she's running at the back, and her body just got more and more of a lean until she couldn't control that lean anymore, and down she went. The bat went out of her hand and game over.
So it happens to the best athletes in the world. So when we come back to us and I say, guys, don't be too hard on yourself. I mean, what I'm trying to teach people to do is really, really hard, because the best in the world get it wrong in the most significant event in their life. They train their whole life for this little tiny window, and then they still get it wrong. So it's really, really hard to do, particularly if you haven't done a lot of practice on your on that mental game. And I know they do a lot of practice. They talk about this. If anything, elite athletes spend a lot of time in that space. But if you don't practice it in training and have people start to simulate the things that go wrong in a race, then the first time you experience it, you don't know how you're going to react. So particularly if you win a lot, if you're a really good athlete,
Who was the athlete that fell during one of the it was one of the women's distance events? Is that who you're speaking about? But it wasn't near the line, right?
Probably 50, 60 meters to go.
But she clashed with another athlete.
I'm not sure she did. Did you see it? I saw it. I didn't think I thought she just ran over her legs.
No, is that when the other athlete came around the outside of it? And they were pushing towards the straight?
Pushed on it, yeah. I
go back and watch that in slow motion.
Yeah.
And you will see that she's in, and specifically stop the race when the other athlete comes up on her and they just come off the last bend into the straight. And I didn't know the athlete's name, but the athlete that actually falls, she's in lane 1. When the athlete comes up on her shoulder, she steps to lane 2. She pushes out, she pushes the athlete wide. She literally goes out to lane 2. Then the other athlete on the outside has to go out into lane 2 even wider. Then she tries to cut back in front of her. Then she goes back into lane 1. Soon as the other athlete, when they're in the straight, goes to go past her, she steps into lane 2 again, out into it, and then she steps into the athlete and goes down. You go and look at that in slow-mo. She creates all of that herself. She literally tried to push the other athlete out wide.
Well, I noticed there's been no protest and the placings haven't changed.
No, because it was all her fault.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If there's no placings change or anything like that, because as you know, there are protests in when these things happen, and sometimes they're upheld.
Yeah, the athlete that she forced out into lane 2 went back and actually helped her up after she'd finished the race. She went back and consoled her and stuff. But yeah, she definitely steps way out into lane 2. If you pause it, and I was showing Radi the other day, and I said, have a look where her feet are in the lane. Don't watch her body, don't watch her face, and then look as they come off that bend where her feet end up, and she just drifts out to try to stop the other athlete coming around her. It's actually so obvious that she should have. If the other athlete had fallen, there would have been a massive protest because of how much space she's actually, come out wide.
That's bad for her. I mean, again, she's a super, super experienced athlete. And she's also one of these athletes that's she's not an aggressive athlete, which is weird because she's when you hear her speak and you see her run, she's actually really quite softly spoken, and so not aggressive.
Sure, and I think even in the heat of the moment, she just in the heat of the moment, she's just been dragged out. She just starts to panic about that other athlete coming around her, and that automatic, that you want to stay right on their shoulder, but she just keeps drifting out around. It's quite interesting when you watch it again. Yeah, I haven't. What's it being aired on?
SBS. Yep.
It is SBS, is it? Yep.
But the SBS streaming service, not the general SBS. So it's SBS Viceland and the SBS On Demand.
Yeah, cool.
So they're streaming it through there.
Good. Well, maybe I'll watch a little bit during the week, and we can sit down and do a bit of commentary on some of the races. I'll even pull up some of the videos. I'll record some we can chat about, and I'll try and find that particular that race, and I'll record a bit of it, and we can actually have a look online and chat together.
Yeah, and Stephen Gardner just got taken off in the 400 semi-finals. He was the gold medal favourite by a long way, and I just got a message. He'd just been carted off in a wheelchair. So
what?
I don't know what's happened.
English guy?
Yeah,
English or American?
Steve Geddes. He's from the Bahamas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So that'll make Wade Van Niekerk pretty happy because he's in good form, but he's not in the sort of form that saw him break the world record. He's not in that form and never has been since. But that'll open the field up now if he does not compete in the final, which appears he won't. But Noah Lyles won the 100, which I was a bit shocked about because he's generally a 200-metre runner. He's not so much a 100 runner, but he pulled it off.
Have the 200's been run yet?
No, 200s haven't been run, and Noah Lyles is more a 200-metre runner. But he actually won the 100. So he's favourite to win the 200. He will be now. And because that'll give him a ton of confidence. Sha'Carri Richardson came from lane 9 and got it right on the dip against Sharika Jackson and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price. So 10.65 is a great run.
Wow, 10.65. God, women are getting so fast, aren't they?
Well, Sharika Jackson will be upset because she ran earlier in the year. She ran 10.54.
God, they're pulling some amazing times out now.
Oh, yeah. They're getting much closer to that Florence Griffiths Joyner world record, which I think is 10.46 or 10.47. That's the world record, which is just ridiculously quick as well. But we all know that's not legit, but anyway, it still stands.
They seem to be making more rapid improvement, the women, than the men at the moment.
Yeah. Certainly the competition has gotten there's more depth in the women than there ever used to be, and there's so many more women running sub-11 now. So, it's a good period for women sprinting. The last 10 years have been very good, and some ridiculous times. And a lot of their 200 times are in the 21s now. You're seeing a lot of women running in the 21s, which you never used to see. Most Olympics would all run in the 22s, low 22s would win it. Now they're down around the 21, 21.6, 21.7. You're seeing times like that now, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So
good. All right. Well, we might call it a day there and wrap up.
Yep.
And
sounds
until
good.
Next week we'll chat about a few more events. I'll put the streaming on and catch up with what's going on. It's been a busy week.
Well, 400 finals in the next day for men and women, so that'll be exciting.
Oh, nice. All right, I'll tune into those. Always good to watch the fours. All right, mate. Have a great day. Cheers.